Good morning, everyone. I call to order the November 7, 2024 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting. Gary Schmidt, would you please take the roll?
Yes, thank you, Chair Smith. First, our staff support today. County Counsel Jane Vedo, Clerk to the Board Andrew Jiraki. Roll call, Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Smith.
Here. I will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken at the usual allotted time. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Order will be followed in this business meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. Gary, what's first?
Thank you, Chair. First is a presentation on 2024 property tax update. Bronson Rueda, who's the Clackamas County elected assessor, will give a brief presentation and answer your questions. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Smith, members of the board. My name is Bronson Rueda, and I'm a Clackamas County assessor and tax collector. I'm gonna wait for the PowerPoint to come up. I'll keep going for now. I'm here today to give a brief update on the 2024 property tax season. Similar to years past, everything is going well. The tax roll was certified with Clerk McMullen on Thursday, October 10th. My yearly press release was submitted on Friday, October 18th. Property tax statements were mailed Monday, October 21st, and Tuesday, October 22nd, which is before the statutory mailing date of October 25th. And property taxes are due November 15th, a week from tomorrow. And if you pay in full, you get a 3% discount. Now let's cover some highlights. This will take about 10 minutes unless there's questions.
Go ahead.
Do I have to point over here? All right. So there's a lot to this slide right here. It shows the changes in levy rates for 2024. Near the bottom, I want to bring your attention to the Molalla area. There's two new bonds. And if you live in the city of Molalla and you live in that two new bond area, it's going to be a total of $2.39 per 1,000 of assessed value. That equates to $239 for every 100,000 of assessed value. So for an example, if your house has an assessed value of $300,000, that represents an increase in $717 for those two levies. This impacts about 3,400 residents, and when we saw this coming down the pike around the corner, we wanted to get out ahead of it. We anticipated a lot of phone calls, so we worked with PGA, Gary Johnson, and Mark McBride specifically, and we used social media to inform the property owners. We also put information on our website with links to information about the bonds so customers could be informed. And then we worked with John McDowell from TS, and he did a great job of putting together, there we go. He did a great job of putting together on the screen here, a interactive map. So customers would go in, they could enter their account number or their address, and it would zoom into their tax lot, and it would show whether or not they were in both one or none of the bonding districts. And we received a lot of positive feedback on this, and I want to make sure that all those involved get credit for it, John and PGA.
Thank you.
So this is the slide that you folks are most interested in every year, I think. It shows, at the top right, it shows the total amount of imposed taxes that the county will get into their general fund coffers. That's $170,939,303.67 if there was no discount. But taking in a 3% discount, it will be less than that. And that is a 4.16% change over last year. And Commissioner West, last year you asked about the forecast, how does that match up with the forecast? So we do a forecast. My office does a forecast every year around the February timeframe. For these two districts, we forecasted a range of 3.5 to 4% increase. So we're 4.16, just above the range, which is pretty good, I think. Let me know if you have any questions on this. I'm going to move on. So these are two graphics I think are really interesting. They're on our website, and PGA and Finance helps put these together with the data. The top right shows for every dollar in property tax that the county collects, what local services does it go to? So in the upper left, you'll see for every dollar we collect, 42.56 cents goes towards schools, K through 12. 17.84 cents goes towards the county. That's us. The graph on the lower right shows out of every dollar that we get, that the county gets, where does that money go to? And public safety gets the largest amount, 66.1%. And our office, assessment and taxation, gets 5.7%. This slide, the thing I want to point out about this slide is the growth, the real market growth in Clackamas County, the value. This last year, it was 1.4%. The year before, it was 6.1%. And the year before that, 17.4%. And so there's a trend where real market value growth is going down in the county. I don't know what's going to happen this year yet, but it could be even less than 1.4% this next year. All right, there's a lot of data on this slide, but I just want to focus on the top three rows. It shows a rolling history of the last 3 years of the certified tax roll. And the real market value this year for the county is $119 billion, a little over $119 billion. Taxable value, $66 billion. And the imposed tax is $1.176 billion. And that represents a 4.22% increase over last year. And the last stat I want to tell you that isn't on this slide is the average real market value of a single family home is now up to, for our county, is up to $674,356. And then what presentation for me would be complete without an e-notices slide? So I'm going to give another plug for e-notices. Over the last year, we've received some communication with our customers indicating that they think e-notices is a way to pay your property taxes online. And that's simply not true. You can pay your property taxes online, but e-notices is a platform to receive your property tax statement electronically. So you sign up for e-notices, you get an email. This year it would have been October 21st. You would have received an email and you could have accessed your property tax statement online on that day instead of waiting for it in the mail. So if you have any questions on how to sign up for e-notices, please call our office, look on our website. It's relatively simple. If there's any questions, I'll take them now.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Scholl?
Mr. Rueda, thank you for that information. On your first slide that's got the districts, levy type, purpose, et cetera,
Yes.
do we have any areas of the county who have seen a reduction in their property taxes for this next 24-25 due to levies that have sunsetted?
When you say a reduction in property
Yeah.
taxes, are you talking about what they paid last year compared to what they paid this year?
Yes, in light of, like, for example, school bond being paid off.
So nobody should receive a reduction in property tax. There are bonds that they levied more or less this year, And if that slide, if you can bring that slide up again, it shows the percent, the average increase that it will go up. And some are less than 3%, some are more than 3%. But for the most part, there wasn't enough of a change in the tax rate where somebody's going to receive a bill that will be less than last year.
Okay. And the other question is on the 23-24 imposed tax, how are we doing on that?
For collection?
Yes.
So every year, and this year so far the trend is no different, every year by the end of November, we collect between 87 and 88% of that total. So this year, by the end of November, we will have collected over $1 billion in taxes. And that money goes to the treasurer, Brian Nava, and Brian Nava distributes that to the taxing districts.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. This has been very informative. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Gary, what's next?
Thank you. The next presentation is recognition of Veterans Day 2024. Because Veterans Day is not till next Monday, and this is your last meeting before then, we're doing that today. To present is our staff from Health, Housing, Human Services, Rod Cook, the Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services, and Gus Bedwell, who's our Veterans Service Office Supervisor. Go ahead, please.
Welcome. Please introduce yourselves.
Rodney Cook, Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services.
Gus Bedwell, Veteran Service Officer Supervisor and Army veteran.
And good morning, Commissioners. We're here today to talk to you about Veterans Day. That's happening next Monday. And we have some vets in the room today that would also be honored through these comments that we'll be making. And we have Gus Bidwell, who's our expert and supervisor in that department, to give a short presentation.
All right, thank you, Rod. And thank you, Chair Smith, Commissioners. Thank you for having us here today to talk about veteran services. And also thank you to those in the audience that are part of our veterans that access services or send people to us on a constant basis to access services. So a little bit about the work that's being done in the county on behalf of veteran services. First thing I got to tell you is that we are the fourth largest county when it comes to veteran population, only behind Multnomah, Washington, and Lane County. That's pretty significant because we have about anywhere between 22 and 24,000 people that are identified as veterans in our county, and that number goes up and down based upon how they do the count when it comes to the VA. Next slide, please. So, thank you. Just so folks know, we have three main programs that take care of veterans in Clackamas County. Our first program is the CFCC Veterans Employment Program, and in the room with us is one of the representatives from that program, Ken Bishak. I would just ask you guys, if you have questions about employment, definitely hit up Ken. He can tell you a lot about what they do in the employment area. But I just want to say, as you look at the stats that are on here, the number of veterans that we've been able to help, Clackamas County should be really proud of themselves because we're a county that actually has county employees that are dedicated to veterans employment. You don't see that very often across the state of Oregon, so it's a big plus for us. And so I just really want to thank the work that they do and the collaboration work that they have with our office, because often they get people to us to also apply for VA benefits that might help them as they're seeking employment. Next slide, please. And then our office, the office that I oversee, is the Veteran Service Office. And a couple of things I want to point out about this slide is you'll see a significant increase, almost a tripling of the amount of money that is coming into the county under the compensation and pension benefits programs. And the reason that is, when I first looked at that number, I had to double check it because I get these stats from the state of Oregon and from our case management system and whatnot, and from the federal VA. And so I had to double check it to make sure, is this right? And because historically we have been here telling you that we draw on about $10 million, give or take a few bucks, for compensation and pension benefits. And here we're looking at almost $27 million that are brought into this county for compensation and pension benefits. So I also checked with my other county colleagues out across the state, and they're seeing that uptrend too. So we started having a conversation. Why is that? Well, there's two main reasons. As you see down below, there is two significant changes that the VA made in the last couple of years. One being the passage of the PACT Act, which increased a significant number of disabilities that one can be service-connected for due to their service in either Vietnam, Camp Lejeune, or in the Gulf Wars that has been going on since 1991. The other part about this is the types of disabilities that we are now seeing in our office that we're applying for. If you had talked to me 2 years ago, average claim would be between 3 and 5 conditions, with most of them being musculoskeletal or hearing loss related, maybe a cancer here and there, maybe a mental health here and there. Now, a majority of the claims that we're doing involve death and dying, unfortunately. It involves the cancers. It involves the more significant disabilities that warrant higher percentages and higher dollar amounts. So to say my team is really working in a really tough situation on a day-to-day basis is just an understatement. The types of claims we are doing and the effect it's having on family members as well down the road is huge. So that's why you're seeing that big increase. Next slide, please. And one last thing about the Veteran Service Office that I just want to mention as well. This work that's being done is being done by 3 accredited veteran service officers, Gina Thomas, Colin Black, and Amber Locke, and myself as a supervisor, and one of our admin specialists. And so it's a lot of work for a very small team. And so if you ever get a chance to say thank you to them, please, I encourage you to do that. So our next slide here is talking about ending homelessness. And also in the room is Joey Johns, who is my supervisor and also the manager over all of the homelessness programs when it comes to veterans. We do have a new supervisor for the Veterans Housing Team, Libby Holseckler. She's not here today, but wanted to make sure to call her out because she is doing some great work. And I will just say, when you look at the numbers in our county, 2 big things that have to come to fruition and just acknowledgement of is that the Veterans by name list is huge in this county in the sense of how we use it. The Veterans by name list, I know you guys have been exposed to by name lists and heard about them before, but that is a key element to making sure that we identify who's experiencing houselessness in our community and also where are they at in getting services. And then the second component is we wouldn't be as good as bringing these numbers down as you see from 2018 all the way through 2024 if it wasn't for collaborative work, that continually engaging our community partners and talking to them and saying, what are you doing with these individuals? How can we support you? What do you need from us? What do we need from you? And just really wrap around services of our veterans that are experiencing homelessness. And as a veteran, I'll just say this. When you look at the number of 72 and you go, wow, that's a really small number. But as a veteran, I like to say all the time that homelessness is kind of like suicide, where one is one too many. So our goal really is one day to where no veterans have to experience a houselessness at night. Next slide, please. And then a little bit more about housing through collaboration. Just want to, show you some numbers that we have here where we've done some collaborative work not only across the county, but also across the community. As a great example, we have Clayton Moore Commons that is constantly housing veterans and doing a great job there. The Veterans Village, folks are getting the services that they need there. One of the great things I liked about Veterans Village is that not only is our housing folks from Clackamas County going out and engaging with the folks at Veterans Village, but our employment individuals are going out there and having conversations with them. And then there's been a multitude of individuals that have engaged with our office that would have never, ever gotten benefits if they hadn't known that there was a VSO to help them. Some individuals that unfortunately historically for years have been told you're not a veteran because of a number of reasons, or maybe we're told no 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, but because of things like the PACT Act or other changes within VA law, now we're getting VA benefits and making a significant impact on them. So that is everything that I have to offer today about the 3 different programs for veteran services in Clackamas County. I am open to any questions.
Thank you very much for that informative presentation. Commissioner Savas?
Well, thank you both for the presentation and your hard work, and those in the audience, the hard work they've done. In my 14 years here, I've certainly learned how strongly a number of the active veterans have been about trying to help their comrades who are not doing so well and help them out. So I think that's really touched me. I think the collaboration that you spoke to and all the things we're doing, we've made significant changes and improvements along that way. Your numbers show that. but there's still work to be done, and we got to recognize all that hard work. I think even the one thing you didn't really touch on a little bit, in a way you did, perhaps, I guess, is a concern that I heard about is how we get more mental health treatment for those that are struggling because of the suicide rate with veterans. So thanks for your hard work. We have more hard work to do, and if there's I know there's always gaps, but maybe highlighting what we can always do better would be of benefit.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader?
I just also want to thank you for everything you do, because actually, I believe we're one of the top performing counties in terms of veteran services in the state. And I think it's obvious we started that work years ago when folks were getting deployed by the National Guard, and we realized that they were coming home without the same level of integration they needed to get back into the community. And I think our county has been a leader, and it's been a privilege to work with all of you on these issues.
And Commissioner Schrader, I would definitely agree with that. Being somebody who's worked in other arenas within the state and veterans advocacy work, I've had an opportunity prior to coming here to work with Clackamas County and some of the network and programs that they had. And part of the reason I came here was because of the strong veteran services program and that collaborative work that Commissioner Chavez mentioned. So I would humbly submit and agree with you.
And I also know that we've worked closely with Clackamas Community College as well for the workforce education component, and that they're also rated as one of the top colleges in the country, community colleges for veterans and veteran services. We started a whole new office there that you folks have been collaborating with, and I think we continue to have a really excellent relationship with Camp Withicum as well, as part of our folks that we work with and help. So
Definitely agree.
thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, good morning, and thank you, Mr. Bedwell, for that report. I appreciate your effective programs in helping the veterans of this county and your outreach. I'd also like to thank all the veterans in the room for your service to this country, and I wish you all a very special, relaxing Veterans Day on Monday. Thank you.
Well, wonderful. I understand there's a photo op available. Would all the veterans like to come forward here and have a picture with the Board of County Commissioners, please?
And it should be noted that our photographer is also a veteran as well.
Photographer's not gonna trip. Everybody look here. Couple more.
Good to see you. I think so too.
Okay.
I would also like to recognize Commissioner Mark Scholl as a veteran as well. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Gary, what's next?
Sorry, Chair, I do want to recognize I was handed a petition signed
Oh.
by multiple folks in the room and others who say this. For the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, the veterans whose signatures appear here have either benefited from the services of the Clackamas County Veterans Service Office or intend to do so soon. We support the Veterans Service Office and purpose and thank the county commissioners for making this service possible. So I'll send you copies of this after the meeting. Do you have something final to say, Rod?
One thing, just thank you to this Board of County Commissioners. You support through transportation, through the VSO office, through the housing. You have really shown your true support for vets in this county, and they know it, and we feel it, and so thank you for your service to our vets.
Thank you all for coming
you.
today. Now, Gary,
All
what's
right,
next?
Chair, we have several public hearings. The first public hearing is approval of a boundary change proposal number 2024-002-CCSD1 for the Clackamas County Service District Number 1. Presenting the information first is Hong Win, who is Assistant County Counsel. Go ahead,
Welcome.
please.
Thank you for coming.
Good morning, Clackamas County Commissioners. Thanks for having me today. As was just mentioned, I'm here before you to request your approval for a boundary change matter, file 2024-002 into Clackamas County Service District Number 1. The property that's proposed to be annexed into this district is one tax lot in unincorporated Clackamas County. It runs generally along Southeast Wallace Road and Southeast Allen Road in the Oakfield area of Oak Road community. It sits on a bluff. It's currently vacant, just under 0.4 acres, and with an assessed value of just over $84,000. The district has sewer lines or facilities on the east side of the property to serve this property. The reason for the proposed annexation is to allow the property to receive sewer and water services from the district. The property itself is part of a 13-lot approved residential development, which is also receiving services from the district. So it just makes it economical and efficient for the district to be providing the service. Portable water services, however, will continue to be provided by Oak Lodge Water Authority. So the criteria as the approving body to approve a district boundary change is established in state and local law. And the Clackamas Comp Plan, Sections 7A and 7C, provides the requirements for the sewer and water development in the county. Metro Code also has additional criteria for your consideration. Based on the staff report that we have submitted for the board, the proposed annexation has been determined to be compliant with state law as well as Metro Code and the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan. So for those reasons, I'm here before you to ask for your approval of this proposed annexation 2024-002. Any questions?
Commissioner Schul?
Yes, good morning. What is the cost of the county for this annexation?
Zero. There is no cost.
Any other questions for the board? I will now open the public meeting for public testimony and take in-person testimony first. Is there anyone in the room who would like to testify on this particular boundary change? Seeing none, clerk, is there anyone online who would like to testify on this?
I received no prior registration for those who wish to comment on this specific public hearing for the boundary change proposal number 2024-002-CCSD1. However, if you are attending this meeting virtually and you would like to comment for this matter, I'll now ask you to raise your hand and I will call on you in the order that I see. Madam Chair, I see none.
Okay, thank you. I will now close the public hearing and ask if there's any further discussion from the board on this. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval of the boundary change proposal number 2024-002-CCSD1.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved we approve the boundary change proposal number 2025-002-CCSD1, and Commissioner Savas has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would you please take the poll?
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Service District Number 5 Street Lighting Board. Gary, what's next?
Next is a public hearing for the Service District Number 5 of Clackamas County. item, or approval of a district order forming 6 new assessment areas within Clackamas County Service District Number 5. Dan Johnson is the Director of Transportation and Development, and Wendy Coriel is the District Lighting Specialist. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners. Just before we get started, we have 2 public hearings, this one and the next one. And I want to take 1 second to remind you, although you do this frequently, but to remind the public, there are one of 3 different ways to add street lighting to our street lighting network. Clackamas County Service District Number 5 is a street lighting authority for Clackamas County and the city of Happy Valley, and they basically have operating oversight over all the street lights, and they coordinate with PGE for the provision of that service. There's 3 ways that lights can be added into the system, one of which is through capital construction, where we go in there and add lights to certain roadways, things of that nature. There's through the development of properties, through our development process and entitlement process, through land use and planning. There are conditions of approval added to add streetlights. And then last but not least is a citizen petition, okay? This first hearing we'll be having relates to those projects that are where streetlights were added via conditions of approval for various development, okay? With that, I'm going to turn it over to Wendy, and she's going to run us through this first public hearing.
Yeah. Good morning, Commissioners. Wendy Coriel, representing Clackamas County Service District Number 5. It's the district for street lighting in the unincorporated area, Clackamas County, and also for the city of Happy Valley. Today, there's 6 different service areas before you for consideration. 5 are in the unincorporated areas of Clackamas County, and 1 of them is in the city of Happy Valley. And actually, I should have said 4 in the unincorporated area of Clackamas County. 4 of the areas will come under Rate B at $47 per tax lot each year. And these projects will have roadway-style lighting, and they'll be installed on existing wood poles. And then 1 of the areas is Rate D, and it'll come at $1.16 per frontage foot per tax lot each year. And these projects will be installed with Cobra head and roadway-style lighting, and these will have new fiberglass poles. The property owners for these areas were notified through mail, and that was prior to scheduling today's hearing. We received 1 written remonstrance for that, and prior to the property owners of these signed an approval and received more than 50% of the property owner's approval. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Do commissioners have any questions or comments right now? I will now open the meeting for public testimony. Is there anyone in the room who would like to testify on this particular street lighting district?
Is it for this item or the next? There is someone here.
That's for the next one.
The next item. All right.
The next one, okay. Thank you. I don't see anyone. Andrew, is there anyone online?
Madam Chair, I've received no prior registrations to testify during this specific public hearing, but if you are attending virtually, I'll now ask you to raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see them. Madam Chair, I see none.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing and ask if there's any further discussion from the board.
One question.
Yes, Commissioner Scholl.
Wendy, this is for, you said 4 unincorporated tax lots and 1 in Happy Valley? That's 5, right?
A total of 5, 4 in the unincorporated area and 1 in the city of Happy Valley.
Okay, so there's, 5 new assessment areas.
6.
I think there's a typo.
There are 5 that are in unincorporated Clackamas County and 1 that's in the city of Happy Valley.
Yeah.
Because we have a second one to do, which
And then
Yes.
which equals a total of 6.
Yep.
So the script is a little bit confusing.
Yep.
Sorry about
Thank you
that.
for that clarification. Any other questions? I will accept a motion.
I move for approval of the board order forming 6 new assessment areas within the Clackamas County Service District Number 5.
Second.
Commissioner Savas has moved for approval of the board order forming 6 new assessment areas within Clackamas County Service District Number 5, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please take the poll?
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Gary, what's next?
All right, you're still meeting as a Service District Number 5. This is the next public hearing, approval of a board order forming one new assessment area within Clackamas County Service District Number 5. Dan and Wendy will present.
Thank you so much. So as we discussed earlier, there were 3 ways to expand our street lighting services, one of which is through a citizen petition. That is a hearing that we're having right now. Citizens have come forward requesting a petition to provide street lighting on their roadway. With that, I'll hand it over to Wendy to provide more explanation.
Okay, again, Wendy Coriel with Clackamas County Service District Number 5. Okay, this one, street lighting can be requested through the installation, through the district's petitioning process. In order to install streetlights through the district petitioning process, the petition must have signatures of over 50% of the property owners. And ultimately, this neighborhood received 52% of the property owners, which is, the area is Area 14-23. It's a 21-lot petition, and it's on Southeast Hugh Avenue in Clackamas County. We'll have Cobra lights installed on existing wood poles, and these will come into rate B at $47 per tax lot each year. Prior to scheduling this hearing today, the Street Lighting District notified all of the property owners in writing, and we provided the process and gave them the steps in the petition process. There was one written remonstrance received, and that concludes my presentation.
I want to be clear in regards to the properties and the property owners. There are 21 properties in this area, in this service area, okay? There are 27 property owners, because you have multiple owners on various pieces of property, okay? The petition requires that we do the property owners, and they have to provide that. We've got, the petitioners secured 14 signatures, so it's a majority of those individuals. 12 did not sign it, did not refuse to sign it. We didn't have any information regarding that. Notice was sent to all of those property owners who either signed or didn't sign, and then that provides the opportunity for the remonstrance, okay? And we've only received one remonstrance of all those property owners. I want to clarify that, the properties versus the property owners.
Okay,
Happy
thank
to answer
you.
any questions.
Questions for the presenters on this? I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first on this particular one. I happen to have a blue card. Jennifer Ertlev, did I pronounce that right? Please come forward, correct my pronunciation, if you would.
Jennifer Ertler.
Okay,
Thank you so much for your time.
go ahead.
I live on Hugh Avenue. My husband and I purchased a house in 2019. It is the only street in our entire neighborhood that does not have any street lights, and it is very dark. There is a park at the end of the block. We see a lot of walkers, a lot of children, a lot of pets, and it would be really nice to have better lighting to be able to feel safe backing out of the driveway, especially as we head into the dark and rainy time of year. And so we're just looking for that. We've got a lot of support from the families on our street and are hoping to be able to make it feel like a safer place.
Great. Thank you very much for coming forward in support of this. It's appreciated. Any other people in the room who would like to testify on this particular street lighting area? See no one. Andrew, is there anyone online?
Chair, I've received no advance registrations. Anyone who'd like to speak for this specific public hearing, but I will ask that if you are attending virtually and you would like to speak for this specific issue, to raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. Madam Chair, I see none.
Thank you very much. I will now close the public hearing and ask the board if there's any further discussion. Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, Wendy, Dan, thank you. If this is approved, how soon can we expect these lights to be put up?
Well, I go back to the office and then I call PGE. PG then usually does a job site visit within a week, and then they get it on their schedule depending on their routine installation and maintenance schedule. So we usually see lights up within about a month.
Okay, good, thank you.
That's pretty good. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate those who went door to door and petitioned for this. This is our system works, and I've been part of 2 of those efforts in unincorporated Clackamas County, and we were successful. Not easy, but we were successful. Just want to point out for those who are paying attention that after the lights were installed, there were a few people that had some concerns about the glare, and apparently they put some shrouds on. Wendy, could you speak to that?
Yeah, PG installs shields on lights when there is a case of a light that might cause some adverse lighting, or backlighting is what we call it. So if there is a particular property that maybe sees an effect that they don't want on the light, for instance, if the light is going to light into a bedroom window or something, we can potentially look at installing a shield, and we have done that before.
Yep. And in the one neighborhood in particular, it did work. It directed the light downward as opposed to across, and so I just want to let people know that option.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will entertain a motion.
I move, go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead.
I move for approval of the board order forming one new assessment area within the Clackamas County Service District Number 5.
Second.
Commissioner Shull has moved for approval of the board order forming one new assessment area within Clackamas County Service District Number 5, and Commissioner Savas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please take the poll?
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Madam Chair.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you all. Thank you for coming to testify today. I will now adjourn as the Service District Number 5 Street Lighting Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's next?
Next is the consent agenda. Before Andrew reads the consent agenda, Chair, if you would share your guidance for today, please.
Sure. Today I'm modifying our normal procedure. I will allow commissioner questions on specific consent agenda items after the entire agenda is read. Commissioners will be able to discuss an item without pulling it from the agenda. The clerk, would you please read the consent agenda items?
Item 3A, elected officials. 2, approval of an amendment to a subrecipient agreement with Clackamas Women's Services for Latina Victim Services. Amendment value is $67,900.45 for 1 year. Total agreement value is $131,990.90 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. No county general funds are involved. Number 3, approval of an amendment to a subrecipient agreement with the Children's Center of Clackamas County for medical and forensic evaluations, victim support services, and coordinated investigation assistance. Amendment value is $26,524 for 1 year. Total agreement value is $51,524 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. No county general funds are involved. 4, approval of an amendment to a subrecipient agreement with Northwest Family Services for temporary housing of intimate partner violence crime victims. Amendment value is $41,666.05 for 1 year. The total agreement value is $81,446.10 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. No county general funds are involved. B, County Administration. 1, approval of a board order reaffirming Clackamas County's commitment to the Alden E. Miller Law Library. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. C, Health, Housing, and Human Services. 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Sunrise Water Authority for Low-Income Household Energy Assistance Program. Agreement value is $42,750 for 1 year. Funding is from the federal pass-through Oregon Housing and Community Services. No county general funds are involved. 2, approval of a contract with Trio Community Meals for congregate and home-delivered meals served to older adults. Total agreement value is $3,547,500 for up to 5 years. Funding is through the Older Americans Act from the Oregon Department of Human Services. No county general funds are involved. 3, approval of a consent to transfer, assignment, and assumption of a home loan agreement for the Mount Scott Terrace Affordable Housing Project. No county general funds are involved. 4, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Portland State University for organizational development services and change management. Total agreement value is $10,000 for 9 months. Funding is through department interest income from federal, state, and local funding awards. No county general funds are involved. 5, approval of a grant application to the statewide Transportation Improvement Funds Program for transportation reaching people in Clackamas County Senior Center's operations. Anticipated grant value is $3,827,045 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Transportation. No county general funds are involved. 6, approval of a grant application to the statewide Transportation Improvement Population-Based Funds Program for transportation reaching people in Clackamas County Senior Center's operations. Anticipated grant value is $1,777,204 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Transportation. No county general funds are involved. 7, approval of a continuation grant application to the Oregon Department of Transportation for preventative maintenance on transportation reaching people, last mile shuttle, and Mount Hood Express vehicles. Anticipated grant value is $200,000 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Transportation. No county general funds are involved. 8, approval of a continuation grant application to the Oregon Department of Transportation 5311 Rural Formula Funds for operation of the Mount Hood Express. Anticipated grant value is $1,137,115 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Transportation and $64,500 of budgeted county general funds. 9, approval of an amendment to a subrecipient agreement with Legal Aid Services of Oregon to provide legal assistance to county residents. Amendment value is $108,679 for 1 year. Total agreement value is $237,838 for 2 years. Funding is through the Federal Community Development Block Grant Program and the Older Americans Act. No county general funds are involved. 10, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for Behavioral Health Housing Investment Funds. Amendment value is 21 months. Total agreement value is $4,704,837.17 for 3 years. Funding is through the Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved. Transportation and Development. 1, board order acknowledging permanent right-of-way easements for road purposes for Minuteman Way and simultaneously vacating a portion of Mather Road and Industrial Way. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved. 2, approval of a contract with PBS Engineering and Environment LLC for the Oatfield Road Jennings Ave Signal Rebuild Project. Total contract value is $472,969 for 2 years. Funding is through the Community Road Fund. No county general funds are involved. 3, approval of a contract with Eagle Elsinore Incorporated for the Arndt Road Airport Road paving project. Total contract value is $1,955,000 for 1 year. Funding is through county-approved American Rescue Plan Act, Lost Revenue, and House Bill 2017 funds. No county general funds are involved. 4, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Metro to implement the fiscal year 2024-2025 annual waste reduction and recycler work program. Total agreement value is $793,880 for 1 year. Funding is through Metro Service District's regional system fees on waste disposal. No county general funds are involved. 5, approval of a contract with OTAC Inc. for consulting services to develop a zoning and development ordinance diagnostic report. Total agreement value is $250,952 for 1 year. Funding is through the Metro 2040 Planning and Development Grant Program. No county general funds are involved. E, Finance. 1, approval of lease agreement with 205 Sunnyside for the Sunnyside Health Center building. Total value is $9,410,098.56 for 15 years. Funding is through the center's service charge revenues. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes my consent agenda.
Thank you. Commissioners, if you have any questions, we have the adequate staff representing each of these agencies in the room for you to ask. Maybe I missed something. Andrew, did you say approval of the previous business meeting minutes?
He did not read that, no.
No, Chair, I failed to read that, but yes, that is included on the consent agenda, item 1A.
Okay, thank you. I thought maybe I fell asleep, but I guess I didn't. Also, Gary, under county administration, could you talk about the affirming commitment to the law library? What's that about?
Yes, thank you. So as you know, Commissioners, under Oregon law, counties are required to operate a law library. Therefore, in 1927, yes, 1927, the Board of County Commissioners at that time decided that they would delegate this authority to the Clackamas County Bar Association, which also is allowed by state law. And that has been in effect ever since. So this board order simply reaffirms Clackamas County's commitment to support a law library, which is overseen by the Clackamas County Bar Association and a judicial member of the County Circuit Court, who is currently Judge Susie Norby. And these are still county employees, so we do have a connection where the county supports those employees. The employees follow county policy and protocols, yet we recognize the authority of the Bar Association and the Circuit Court judicial member in the day-to-day oversight of the law library. So the board has every few years, the board affirms this board order, affirms this partnership through a board order, and that has occurred previously since 1927 in 1977, 1983, and 2002. So this simply reaffirms that almost 100-year commitment. There's no financial part of this. It simply is to reaffirm that commitment.
Great. Thank you for that. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, Chair, on agenda items C 5, 6, and 7, kind of relates to our transit services that the county provides. And I have like our staff to come up, they're here and prepared for this, just to clarify something, number one, for the public record.
Sure.
And also to inform you all of discussions that we're having.
I would
with-
like that. Is that under Transportation and Development, or is that under Health, Housing, and Human Services?
C would be under Health, Housing, and Human Services.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And those numbers again were 5.
5, 6, and 7.
Got
and,
it.
and my question is, and first of all, I want to applaud our staff. I have great confidence in the work that they do. I'm not at all questioning their math or their budgeting, but I certainly, after 25 years plus of doing public budgeting, I realize that we have not only the term of the year or projects, but our funds are appropriated, they're dedicated to a certain purpose and cause, and therefore things like carryover or rollovers are a common occurrence. Recently, it's come to my attention that the counties that are within the TriMet Service District are being called out, brought to my attention that some of those monies are unspent as of yet, which I guess the presumption is that they ought to be all spent, or possibly any future funds withheld until they're all spent. I think there's some confusion around that. So I just ask maybe staff to just help the board understand and clarify that there's no effort to pool monies for other purposes or pool monies unnecessarily. These are programmed, essentially, dollars, if I understand it correctly. So that's my entree, and a response from our staff would be helpful.
And if the board doesn't mind, I have Teresa Christopherson, who runs that program, so she's here to answer some of these detailed questions.
Welcome.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Teresa Christopherson, Administrative Services Manager with the Social Services Division. We do have a rollover of what we call the STIF funding, the statewide transportation improvement funds that we receive from TriMet. This primarily has resulted because of delays in receiving funding for receiving vehicles, in delays in service because of COVID, and just some unspent funding that has rolled forward. With all of that, we have accumulated a rollover balance of STIF funds, but to be very clear, we do have that money programmed to be used in future years. We are getting buses in. In fact, we just received quite a number of them a few weeks ago, if you go out and look in the parking lot. And we also have those funds programmed to support the ongoing operations. We do anticipate that we will actually be done with those rollover funds, have them completely used up within the next biennium, which actually, because the funding for that program is projected to be flat per TriMet, will result in us having some issues with meeting our ongoing operational costs. So we are not keeping these funds as rollover funds indefinitely. We do have them programmed. They have a purpose and use, and we do anticipate spending them out within the next biennium.
Okay. So one clarifying question, again, for my board's information and myself, just to clarify. As I understand, the state transportation improvement funds were part of HB 2017. They are allocated for this region to what's called a QE, a qualified entity, which is TriMet. These requirements for spent funds, that's not a state requirement to the region or to any of the providers. That's a unique requirement, apparently, that is being imposed upon the providers through TriMet, but not from the state to TriMet. Is that correct?
Yes and no. So we are required per state law to account for any unused dollars. We're required to document that in a very strict fashion, account for interest earned on that. However, there is not a requirement at the state level for those funds to either be returned to a QE or to somehow or another lose those funds. In fact, what the requirement is to continue to budget for those funds going forward. In this particular case, there's been a question that's been raised by our partner TriMet, asking why we have accumulated this balance of these unused funds and what our intentions are to do with those funds. There's also a concern raised that maybe those funds should not continue to be rolled into the Clackamas County projects going forward. And that is the concern that we have, to make sure that those funds, which were originally designated to support Clackamas County services, continue to be used to do so in the future.
Thank you for helping clarify that and giving us that information, and we'll work to make, I'll do my best to work with you all to make sure there's a level playing field and be reasonable. I think it's, again, 25-plus years of budgeting, public budgeting. I've never seen any department or budget where they have there's zero carryover or liabilities and so forth. It's always moving up and down. But I also know that they're dedicated for this cause, and that ought to be the purpose. And it is an auditing process, correct? And we've flown through those audits. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, we do go through an extensive auditing process on these funds.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions, Commissioners, for the staff regarding the consent agenda? I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Commissioner West has moved for approval of the consent agenda, and Commissioner Savas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please take the poll?
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Madam Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Water Environment Services Board.
Oh, sorry, that's me. Hi, you're now meeting as the Water Environment Services Board. This is request for consent agenda. Andrew, I'll do it. Item 1, approval of a contract with Jacobs Engineering Group for aeration basin improvement design services. Contract value is $849,058 for 5 years. Funding is through Water Environment Services Sanitary Sewer Construction Funds. No county general funds are involved. That is a consent agenda, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Does any director wish to remove any item from this consent agenda? Or is there any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I move that for the approval of the Water Environment Services consent agenda.
Second.
It has been moved by Director West and seconded by Director Schrader for the approval of the Water Environment Services consent agenda. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the poll?
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Scholl.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director West.
Aye.
Madam Chair.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as a Water Environment Services Board and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's next?
Next is public communication, Chair Smith.
Oh, thank you. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be courteous and respectful to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. I will now open the meeting for public testimony, and I will take in-person testimony first. I have 2 cards here. The first one is Carol White. Carol White here? Well, we'll go back to her. Maybe she'll come back. The next person is Christine Kennedy. Please come forward, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Commissioners, Chair. Thank you for a few minutes to speak. I have submitted several letters over the last week regarding the elections, and I just, before I speak to that, just want to share that my mother and father were both veterans, World War II. My mother was a nurse in both the European and also the Asian theater, and she was in the Philippines when the bomb dropped. So, you know, thank you for all the service for the county, for those of you who are veterans. My dad was also in the service, but he was in the Air Force. My mother was a nurse first in the Army and then in the Air Force because that was very early in the use of nurses in the military. So just wanted to say that because they were huge in terms of who I am. So I'm a retired nurse. I was a nurse for 45 years. And one of the things that I want to share this morning is the thought that if we don't use our agency as individuals, we will lose our agency. Now, agency is a term that you might want to look up. For Ben West, who's a RN, he's very familiar with the term as a business model of agency. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about it more in a social term. So it's who you are as a person, how do you use who you are as a person to make the changes in the world that you want to see. So that is just a thought that's really deep within my heart this week. The first time I testified to this group was on January 7th, 2021, and it was not in person. And that was quite a day for all of us. So it's interesting that here we are. It's kind of a bookend, and I just want to share that I really have learned so much about the county and how this commission operates over the last 5 years. And as a retired nurse executive, I just want to say your budgeting process and where the money flows from, where the money goes to, how do you decide who gets the money? That is such a huge responsibility, and it is so complicated. And I just want to say, I think people would like to understand, but I think in general, it's hard to understand budget. There was a very nice tax explanation that was done. I've got my tax statement right there on my table. It was right next to my ballot. I've put one in the mail, but the other one hasn't gone in. So I just want to say thank you for your time. And my observations in the election office were just illuminating and very positive. So thank you.
Yep, thank you for coming forward. You've often come before us before, and we appreciate what you have to say.
Community health is really my passion.
Commissioner West.
I also want to thank you for coming before us. You often bring a different perspective than we hear from other people in the community, and it's very valued. We have to get data points from all different types of voices in this community.
Many voices.
Some we may have some bias towards, some we may have some differences. I mean, you've always respectfully come before us. I do want to say I think the clerk has been, her short history here as an election official, she has been a good technician. And this board has been pretty congratulatory of her efforts and work. And thank you for engaging in the election process and being part of that. And I want to just thank you for always being willing to come before us and give your public testimony.
May I ask another question?
Sure.
Could you help me understand the use of your word technician for the county clerk, please?
So she is in charge of running the election. She's the elected clerk, and there's a lot of technical work. There's a lot of expertise that takes to do that. It's a job I could not do, and so I think that she has done a fine job at that. There's been opportunity for some dialogue about areas of improvement, as with any profession or any of us that serve the public. But overall, I think she has done a good job, and I think we have to continue that conversation so that we continue to have confidence in the process for everybody who votes in Clackamas County. I don't know if that answers your question.
Go ahead. Can I ask another question? No, you didn't answer my question. Well, let's see. You answered my question, and thank you for the response. May I state something? Ahead. Okay. So I see her as more than a technician. So a lot of the work that I did as a nurse exec and a nurse leader was in the area of quality improvement. So I was really at the end of my, not the end of my career, my final assignment, I really only got things that really came up to me that were very serious. And often I was involved with debriefs, very detailed debriefs, looking at your systems, where the choke points are, that's probably not a good word to use, where the risks are, where can you make changes that are people versus technical issues. And in my career as a nurse, usually about 95% of the times when we looked at critical incidents that occurred, a lot of it came down to communication and trust.
Thank you very much.
Communication. Thank you very
Thank you
much. I
very
appreciate your
I
time.
would agree with you. Thank you.
Commissioner Schrader.
I just wanted to say, Christine, it's okay. It's always a delight to see you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Anything else? Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Andrew, is there anyone online who would like to testify?
Madam Chair, I've received no previous online registrations for anyone who'd like to speak during today's general public communication, but if you are attending virtually and would like to comment during the general public communication period, I will now ask you to raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order that I see. Madam Chair, I see none.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to the other blue card that was submitted, Carol White. I'm calling on her again. I don't see her in the room, but thank you very much for submitting your card. Okay, Gary, what's next?
Next is County Administrator update. That is me. I do have an item of business to share with you and to seek your vote or a potential motion. During your board recess from October 28, 2024 to November 7, 2024, there were 2 contracts that could not wait for your return. So under County Code Appendix C, Section C-050-0100, Section 5, it says the county administrator has the authority to sign contracts on behalf of the Board of Commissioners when there exists an emergency such that a quorum of the Board of Commissioners cannot meet before an action must be taken for the protection of the public and/or public goods. There were 2 contracts I determined met that qualification. County Counsel Jane Vetto agreed with me, and I did sign them on your behalf. They are, one is for the Housing Authority, grant renewal application for the Family Self-Sufficiency Grant from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development for family self-sufficiency staff and programming. Grant value is $192,418. for 1 year. Funding is through the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. No county general funds are involved. That was due November 1st, so it could not wait for your return. This is a grant the county has received for almost a decade. It supports our staff doing this work. It is simply a renewal of that grant, and it is money coming to us, so I felt comfortable signing that, but it was due November 1st, could not wait for your return. It would have impacted the program if we waited. Second was for Clackamas County Technology Services, amendment to the software support contract with Oracle PeopleSoft for software maintenance and support. The amendment value is $248,927.97 for 1 year. Total agreement value is $863,103.26 for 1 year. Funding is through budgeted department cost allocations, which does include budgeted county general funds. The Oracle PeopleSoft software mainly supports our human resources and finance department functions, all functions, personnel records, processing invoices, and so forth. And to stop this agreement would have meant catastrophic end of how we do our internal work here at Clackamas County. That contract was due October 31st, and so I could not wait for your signature. I did deem that was an emergency for public goods. So I'm seeking your permission, your ratification of these 2 contracts I signed on your behalf. If you disagree, then we will back out of it. I hope you don't. But because one of these is a housing authority, first I'll answer any questions you have, but then, Chair, if you convene as a housing authority, and we'll do 2 separate votes. Thank you.
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Housing Authority Board. Directors, do you have any questions?
Chair, I move for the ratification of the documents signed on the board's behalf on October 29th, 2024.
Second.
Commissioner West has moved for ratification of the document signed on the board's behalf on October 29, 2024, and Director Savas has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the poll?
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Madam Chair.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. I will now adjourn as a Housing Authority Board and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners. And for the second part, I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I move for the ratification of the document signed on the board's behalf on October 29, 2024.
Second.
Commissioner, or is it Director? No, it's Commissioner West has moved for ratification of the document signed on the board's behalf on October 29, 2024, and Commissioner Savas has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the poll?
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Madam Chair.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. I appreciate that. We'll document this and put it in the record. And if I may quickly give you a piece of good news about the good work of our county employees that they do constantly. And this today, I want to recognize our Department of Transportation and Development staff who are recognized with the 2024 Project of the Year Award by the Oregon chapter of the American Public Work Association. We were recognized for the county's work on the Linwood Avenue Corridor Improvements Project under the category of transportation projects running between $5 and $25 million. This award recognizes excellence, innovation, and cooperation with regard to management and administration of public works projects. Our partnership was with the City of Milwaukee on this important corridor improvement project, and we were recognized by this Oregon chapter of this national organization. So congratulations to our outstanding staff in transportation and development for this work. That is my update today. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much. We will now go to Commissioner Communication. Commissioner Schrader, you're first.
Well, colleagues, it's been quite a week, and I've been thinking a little bit of what I'm grateful for. And I have a quote about gratitude here that I'd like to share with you. And that is, gratitude is a quality similar to electricity. It must be produced and discharged and used up in order to exist at all. And I think the comment I want to make today is how much I have enjoyed working with all of you as my colleagues. I've been through multiple commissions, and I think the work that we have done here together as a team in the last few years has been nothing short of extraordinary. Particularly in the areas of housing and taking care of people. I think that we have done an outstanding job as a team. And I particularly want to mention my colleague to the left, Lieutenant Colonel Shull, Commissioner Shull. I've always appreciated your clarity of thought and your attention to detail. You have been fantastic in terms of really getting to the meat of a situation and thinking it through and really coming up with extremely sound and logical ways to do the work that we do. And so for that, sir, I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
I also want to thank Chair Smith, because what I have enjoyed and about you the most is how forthright you are. I have always said to you, working with you has been so much fun in so many ways. And I often state we're kind of the Manhattan to Malala duo here, or Malala to Manhattan, because we both came from very disparate backgrounds. I was an urban girl outside of New York City, and you were a farm girl. I know in Malala, I later learned what it was like to be a farm girl, so I know how tough it is to work and to be a part of the land like that. And I've always appreciated your insight and your humor. To Commissioner Savas, I want to just thank you for everything that you've done, because your attention to detail has always helped me because if I need to remember something, you're always the first one I go to because you have a mind like a steel trap and your knowledge of transportation and development is extraordinary. And how you manage to negotiate for us through that quagmire of detail is really greatly appreciated. And finally, to my dear friend Ben, who who I call young Ben sometimes because you're my daughter's age. I can't help it. Okay, there you go. I have appreciated your enthusiasm and your dedication to the health and well-being of people in this county. I think the notion of a recovery center, I think the notion of what you bring to our public health domain in this county has been out of this world, and I appreciate your sense of humor. And getting to go to NACO with you has always been one of my top-notch experiences as we wend our way through what we need to know at the national level as well as the local level. So thank you, my friend. And colleagues, that's all I have to say for the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner West, you're up.
Thank you. I think of those kind words, Commissioner Schrader. It's been an honor to serve with you. For those of you watching may not know this, I consider Commissioner Schrader the county's grandmother in all the best senses, and the way that she nurtures and is kind to all of us and is often a healing balm where passions arise is much necessary, very necessary, so we appreciate you, Commissioner Schrader. This board has been fantastic to serve with. I know we just got through a big presidential election. The whole nation is probably still buzzing and coming down off of that long experience, and so I think we are all always kind of in awe of the solemn responsibility that we all have in self-governance, and that us as elected officials, we are not the boss, but the constituents are, and we serve a very diverse population in Clackamas County with all kinds of different thoughts and ideas and backgrounds and things that make up these constituents as individuals, and they inform us about different directions that we should take. And that's good because if it comes to a lighting issue on your street that impacts your life directly and the safety and well-being of your home, all the way to health and human services, public safety, transportation, elections, all of these things, impact our lives directly. We talk about filling potholes here in Clackamas County. Those are real potholes because that's something we are tasked to also do. But they're just problems and different big things that we have to engage in and be the boots on the ground. We talk about that all the time. And, we as we come out of the election process, that conversation is still right before us. And I hope as we look forward going into a non-election season that we can be willing to do some reflection. We can be willing to look back and say, can we be better? How can we better ensure public trust? What's in our purview? What's not in our purview? We had a very lovely presentation by a number of concerned citizens before, about a week or so ago, that were very respectful, came before us with something they cared deeply about. We listened to them. We were sympathetic to their concerns. And we've also heard from other people that maybe disagree with that presentation. And I think that we have to distill all that down into what is in the county scope and what isn't within. As we are the bank, are there things that we can do to be even better, to be the best county, and to be supportive of our clerk, who, as the elected representative, we have very limited roles as Board of County Commissioners, but I do think that we have a role to have a voice in it, and I hope we can do that. We want to make sure that our voter rolls are clean. If there's any bureaucratic issues or incompetence, which is all too common in bureaucracies, as we know, we want to deal with that. If there's any security issues, for this clerk to feel more secure, or for even the citizens who go and participate in the elections process to feel secure, we need to look at that. Where are there any gaps there? Do we have any chronic delays? Are we constantly having issues with our elections process in Clackamas County? Is it structural? Is it, are there quality improvement issues that we need to work about? Is there equipment that we need to make sure that is up and running efficiently? We need to be aware of that if we're going to act as the bank here in Clackamas County. And then how do we make sure that we have confidence that only legal voters are voting in Clackamas County, and what can we do to be the example of that in a nonpartisan way? So I hope we look at that moving forward still I think those are all things that are appropriate for us to have a conversation as a board along with our constituents. And I think we should look for different ways to engage in that respectfully. So congratulations to those who won this cycle, and congratulations to those who did not lose, and hang in there for those that the votes are still being counted in your races and we do not know yet. But we want that process to go on securely and safely and without a hitch. And Chair, with that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner West. Commissioner Savas, you're up next.
Yeah, well, first off, Commissioner Schrader, thank you for your comments. You too bring an exceptional value and skill set, earned. You are often a voice of reason. You are empathetic. You take understanding, and you work with all of us. And I think sometimes you help calm us all down. So I really appreciate you, and you're a friend as well. So, secondly, I do want to express, just a great thank you, heartfelt thank you. Number of veterans in my family served. My last uncle, who passed away last year, served in World War II. So I had most family was in the Navy, some in the Army, some in the Air Force, but mostly Navy. But again, wish everyone a happy and heartfelt Veterans Day, and a great thanks for the service you provide. And Commissioner West, I guess you're technically a veteran, but the fact that you've enlisted and you're serving our armed services, I want to also acknowledge you today too.
Thank you, appreciate that.
You bet. As reflecting back on what's around the corner, people say, people don't know this, but elections or re-elections and so forth efforts start really essentially yesterday, going forward for the term ahead. So that's not lost on myself. And I'm always asking myself, how did I get in this mess, and how's it going? And what drives me, driving to work today, once again reminded that, what really, I was astonished and really saddened and disappointed when I learned many, many years ago that governments were fighting governments themselves, jurisdictions, disputes, lawsuits. And I was stunned as a citizen. I thought, my gosh, I thought government was a fine, well-oiled machine, and they got along and they worked together collaboratively. And for the most part, we do. I mean, we approve things here today with partnerships, but I think there are often and frequently examples in which it calls into question sometimes what the mission of a particular jurisdiction is, and then whether or not they're fulfilling that. And are they being fair and equitable to everyone? And are we wasting taxpayer dollars when we're fighting as opposed to not working together? And that's a big one for me. And here we have on the horizon, we have some challenges with jurisdictions, as seems to be never ending. I reminded in the last couple of weeks here, just working with another jurisdiction, that ask myself, why? Why are we having these difficulties? All we're here is to serve and to serve the public in the best, most efficient way possible. Yet, we don't have a team of 10 or 11 legal counsel in Ms. Veto's office here because everything's going smoothly and fine. So I appreciate the work of our legal counsel's office. And I also appreciate that in my history on this board, we have always been the recipient of a lot of negative or mischaracterized information. And sometimes when it comes from another government, that bothers me a lot when it comes from another government. I think we should rise above that. We have as a board, so I want to commend all of you and the prior commissioners, because we have always not engaged in a lawsuit or a legal challenge on false pretenses or mischaracterized pretenses simply to advantage that particular jurisdiction, right? We've always been the recipient. We always had to deal with it and in a fair, reasonable way. And as I would say, we had to be the adult in the room, and we continue to do that. I think we need that just brings us, number one, credibility, but more importantly, it's the responsible thing to do, because we can't pick a favorite jurisdiction. And we are also not only the recipient of, but we are subservient to the state government and the federal government. So we don't serve in a huge power capacity. We have to initiate and maintain and implement state law as well as our own ordinances. So a lot said there, but I just reflecting on whether it was the election or the stuff that led up to the election or stuff that's coming before us that frankly should not be an election type of a thing. It should be really about serving the people that these battles continue, and I think that having that historical perspective of 25 years of public service, it does pain me to think that the battles don't go away. They continue, they're there, the challenges are there, and I guess that's what drives my passion to be in this position, is to fix these things and not allow them to take place in the first place, hopefully. But that said, thank you all for your service.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Scholl, you're up.
Yes, thank you, and good morning, Clackamas County. I, too, would like to say a few words to our veterans of Clackamas County. We're all very thankful for your dedication, the time you spent in the military to add to the fabric of the national defense of this country. Without your service, something would have been undone. A mission would have been not accomplished. So thank you very much. When you see some of our older veterans from World War II, there are a few around. They're in their mid-90s now, the youngest ones. Or Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, Afghanistan, Iraq, wearing their hat. Please go up to them, say hello, and talk to them. Every time they'll be happy to tell you about their experience in the military. So thank you again, and enjoy your Veterans Day on Monday. Just have a relaxing day. I would also like to thank the clerk's office. They have a very difficult job there. There's so many moving parts to running an election. And so the clerk and her election staff, thank you very much. And also, thank you to all the volunteers from Clackamas County who spent many, many hours working in there, doing the tabulating the ballots. I appreciate that. Also, I'd like to say a word to the families of Clackamas County. The time I've been on the board, my two main focuses and concerns have been trying to ensure an environment for our families that make Clackamas County a great place to raise your children, an affordable place to raise your children, and also an environment in which to run a small business where you can make a profit. These are very important to me. Again, an environment in which our children can grow up, go to school, get a good education, live in a secure home with a mom and dad, a secure family. So this morning, right now, my daughter-in-law is in labor, and I'm watching my clock here now, because any second, I'm going to be a grandfather. And so that just makes me stop again and think about the importance of what we do here on the Board of Commissioners, the staff for Clackamas County, in providing an environment in which our families can thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Savas, my uncle was in World War II also. So I understand what you're saying. Thank you for the kind comments, Commissioner Schrader. So my term as chair, we've always allowed for, on our Thursday business meetings under public communication, people can come forward and say really what they want. I mean, within reason, of course. And we don't monitor that, or tell them, no, they can't say what they want to say. And that was a situation that arose a couple weeks ago regarding a resolution that we were asked to pass. And just because, as chair and the board, we allow people to come forward and express their opinions, it was somehow construed that we were going to adopt and pass a resolution that I had never seen before, and I was totally surprised. And I wish people would be more engaged in the local Board of County Commission to understand how we do business. But I suspect they don't want to be engaged in that, and they decided to put out propaganda to the opposite of that. I want to thank the people of Clackamas County who voted in this election. As a county continues to receive the ballots, it is important that each vote is tabulated. In honoring every vote, I will wait until the end before I make any further announcements. With that in mind, this Board of Commissioners is adjourned.